there, I'm Terry Bolton, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about fall fishing. Now, we're getting ready to come up on the first day of fall here in a few days, and as you can see, we're in the back of a big creek here on Kentucky Lake. And as you start to get into the fall, your daylight periods start to get a little shorter. These bait fish start to migrate into the backs of the bays, and of course you can see we've got a number of stick-ups and stake beds and things like that. But one thing I like to do in the fall is get back on these flats and take a lipless bait like this Rip and Wrap, and I'll throw it around. As you can see, there'll be little shad, little balls of shad, and shad squirting around out here. And I like to throw that out here underneath those balls of shad because a lot of times those fish will get away from the cover and key on those bait fish. But one thing I like to do is I throw it on big monofilament line. I've got this on 17, maybe even sometimes 20-pound monofilament line, a 7-to-1 reel. And because a lot of times I'm only throwing this bait into 6 inches of water. But when you get back on these flats, pay attention to your depth finder, just like you would as if you were out there in the middle of the lake on a ledge, because a lot of times there'll be little subtle ledges and depressions where these creeks used to run in, and a lot of times it'll only be 1 foot, maybe 10 inches, 12 inches of difference, and that's all it takes. Those fish will relate to that little 1 foot break back there, and they'll use that to push those shad up into that shallower water. They'll come out here in the deeper water, push them against the shallower water because it's easier for them to trap that forage in the shallower water. And if you'll get back on these flats, watch your depth finder, find these little breaks, throw that lipless bait, and when you throw it out here, one thing I like to do is keep a high rod, because a lot of times that cast right there, I'll probably throw it into about 8 or 10 inches of water, and I'll hold my rod up, because a lot of times you'll have silt in the backs of these bays, and that'll help keep that bait up out of the silt and keep it more in front of the bass.
Oh, don't do it.
We got it. All right. It's one thing you need to look at in the fall of the year. Look in the back of the creeks. Try the lipless bait like the Rip and Wrap. And look back along these shallow flats, these shallow breaks a lot of times. And you'll find schools of bass. Sometimes you'll find individual fish. Sometimes they'll be pretty nice ones like this one.
Better be ready for a big fight. Trigger X, trigger the bite.